housing is the only thing that's legal to steal. I challenge people with this all the time. Can you find me a turnkey multifamily in Connecticut that's listed on the MLS that cash flows a single dollar? And if you think you can, what's the address? And no one can ever give me one. Don't go out looking at houses with your realtor for days and days on end. That's not a good use of your gas and your time. Tenants are always the victims of landlords, and it's never the other way around. And so they try to do everything possible to make it so landlords can, they limit what landlords can charge, limit what landlords can see, limit what landlords can do.
David, why Airbnb over traditional rentals?
Why Airbnb? So it started because I am a student of Robin Thompson, and this is pre-virus. Pre-virus, Robin, she would stand up on stage. She's a rehabber from Waterbury originally. They call her the Queen of Rehab. She's a very, very established teacher, and she is very popular selling real estate products from stage. And she says, I am making 3 times what I make on a long-term rental on short-term rentals. And she's like looking at the room like, do you hear what I'm saying? And the first couple of times she said it, I didn't do anything. And the reason I didn't do anything is because I know how to calculate the math on a long-term rental, but not on a short-term rental. It's not as obvious. How do you know what your occupancy will be? How do you know how to set your nightly rate? That wasn't obvious to me. And it's just as much an art as it is a science. But I tried one because of her. And my first one was near Mohegan Sun, and it was okay. You know, it didn't make a lot of money, but it did something. And then the virus came and I lost for a while, and, you know, it took a while to come back. But the reason that I'm into Airbnb now more than long-term rentals is because they make more. I challenge people with this all the time. Can you find me a turnkey multifamily in Connecticut that's listed on the MLS that cash flows a single dollar? And if you think you can, what's the address? And no one can ever give me one.
You mean because like with the interest rate now, or what, or any property?
At current prices, with current interest rates, with current taxes, current insurance rates, there's not 1, 2-family, 3-family, 4-family that you can buy on the MLS. That's turnkey. You can still rehab and flip and value add. That's okay. But there's nothing turnkey where you can cash flow a single dollar. And when I say it like that, people are like, oh, really? You know? And I'm like, what's the address? Yeah. I'll analyze a deal with you.
They have probably like poor underwriting, because I feel, especially like people weren't selling their house, they are manipulating the numbers and they're forgetting, obviously, the vacancy. They put 5% when in the town is like 10%, or, you know, they forget to put water and sewer, or they forget to put property management, even though they manage a property. You know, at some point you want a manager there. And I think it's very tough, but
it's the property management piece is the only part that I'm okay with. If you want to write 0 in your management fee, I'm okay with that if you manage it yourself. But just make sure that your eyes are open and you recognize that your time is not worth 0.
Correct. I know that on your peak, you had 139 doors. You right now have 35, 17 short term, and you have obviously more than 20 years in this business. I also know that you turned some towns around like Bristol. How do you scale like that? Like, when you started, how do you get to have that many doors, and what is the one thing that you can share with the audience about scaling?
So I like to think that I made some kind of difference in Bristol. Turning the town around would be a strong way to say it. I can't say I did that, but I did take 2 of the worst streets and I did make them better. And I did that by buying all of the bad houses on them over the course of like a decade. It was Divinity Street and Summer Street. And I was the largest unit owner on Summer Street for a few years. And I don't know if I was the largest unit owner on Divinity, but I had like 4. And so when I was doing this, real estate was pretty low. So it was pretty easy to go and buy a house that nobody else wanted. I started doing this, doing the crack house stuff in 2008 to probably 2018. So quite a decade in there. So it is difficult to compare it to today, but it doesn't mean those kind of times aren't coming back. So in a market like today, you will have some young, ambitious new investor who's like, oh man, that house, I know those people have really gross teeth, but they're probably nice people. I'm going to buy this 3-family because it's the only thing that I can afford. And so for that reason, it's hard for someone like me to go and buy a crack house today because it's still going for a high price. During the low years, I could go buy a crack house because nobody else wanted it. Nobody else wanted to deal with the problems that came with it, with the headaches. And that's why I was able to get so.
What if you could retire in less than 10 years? Not someday, but actually 10 years. I wrote the exact roadmaps in my book, Born to Retire Young. And these are real estate strategies that I personally use to go from coming to this country with $500 to a 60-unit real estate portfolio. And every single penny goes to building schools in the Dominican Republic. So grab your copy today. Link is in the show notes. Now back to the episode.
Many during those times, because I was there and I was active and I was aggressive
And
during the low years.
If let's say that I come to you and say, hey, David, I want to own 200 doors. Let's say I know that you do more Airbnb, you're more focused on, the business itself, less than the amount of doors. For those people that just want to get 100 doors, where do you start in the current conditions right now?
So, I mean, obviously, you just start with the first one and then you go to the next one. If you're looking to buy 100 doors in a single building, I mean, you should be pretty established before you get into those kind of investments. But I would also caution people that this is not a great time to scale the doors. Like when I grew to 139 doors, by luck or skill, probably more luck, it was a great time to do it. And I got lucky that way. It's not easy to grow right now. And if you do grow, only two ways to do it is it's got to be a lot of value add. You have to buy beat up stuff for a discount and fix it up and refinance it. And that's one of the only two ways to grow. And the other one is distressed property. You better be buying it subject to, there's a lot of people out there that are in trouble for whatever reason and they have good interest rates. And if you can buy sub 2, that's how I like to add doors myself these days. That's my favorite way at the moment.
Do you see any markets right now in Connecticut, any particular markets in Connecticut where there's opportunity or no? Like it could be for Airbnbs or long-term or flipping, whatever you think you're seeing, like, oh, I think this market could be good.
So the Airbnb market can be done anywhere. When I first started it, I, like most people, believed that you needed tourism for Airbnb to be successful, but that's actually a myth. You can put them anywhere. As far as markets that are better than others, that's a tough one in Connecticut. I don't know. The casino area was the best area. Not that it isn't also now, but it's also getting kind of saturated. Yeah. A lot of people have the same idea that they want to have Airbnbs that cater to Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods. And if you decide you want to do that, I just want you to know that you are very much not alone. It doesn't mean you can't succeed there, but you have to be better than average, and there's some price compression there. You can't get the top rates that you could a few years ago.
I was there yesterday with my kid, the Great Wolf Lodge, and it was packed. And obviously, the rooms, I don't even know how much we ended up paying. It was like $250 for a room, and it was okay. I mean, it was great. It was good. It was not great. It was Mother's Day yesterday, so we stayed Sunday to Monday, and right. And then I'm like, okay, so Sunday was packed. Like we were in the water park and everything. And then Monday, I'm like, people have schools and everything. Man, it was the same pack as Sunday. And it was Mother's Day on Sunday. So I'm like, And it makes me, think going to lead into this interview, the Airbnb is there. It's a great opportunity because, again, a lot of people, I don't know if you know that Foxwoods in the casino, the parking is free, but at the Great Wolf Lodge is not. You got to pay $25 per day. A lot of people park in the Foxwoods, and I'm like, why people are like walking to the Great, why they be? And I realized that there's so much opportunity there because people don't want to pay $250 a night, and there and people that have, and this is only for me and my wife and my kid. I cannot imagine in a group. I mean, you're spending a couple $1,000, so why not do an Airbnb? But yeah.
When you want to go to the Airbnbs near the casino, the weekend nights spike really high. Weekend nights can be like $600, $650. A concert night can be like $800. 2 years ago on New Year's Eve, Mohegan Sun was $2,000 for a regular hotel room. That's the top night of the year for Mohegan. Wow. So for a single night, it's a little tough to compare because Airbnbs have a cleaning fee and the casino hotels don't. So if you are like, you pay $250 on a Sunday night. If I'm $119 on a Sunday night, which is my price for my Foxwoods Airbnb, my cleaning fee is $150, which makes it like $265, $269, something like that. So now I'm more expensive than the casino hotel room, and the casino hotel room is just nice. It's just nice to be there. So the only people that I'm booking to in this scenario are people that can't fit in a single hotel room. Correct. I can sleep 6, and a casino hotel room can sleep 4. So if you're looking for you want to sleep 5 or 6, I'm an option. Because I'm a lot cheaper than renting 2 hotel rooms. But if you're coming for 2 nights or 3 nights, that's when you save money with Airbnb because the cleaning fee is once and the nightly rate is a lot less. And then the weekend nights book much better. The weekend nights, when you're paying $600 for a casino room, $700, I'm $329.
Yeah,
and I can sleep 6. And so even with the cleaning fee,
that's what I think Airbnb has a major advantage. advantage on, in the single house, you can fit 6. So if you divided that cost by 6, it's going to be way less than any hotel room at any time. So I think,
Yeah.
again, that's a huge advantage. And not only that, but like hotels also get you, and on the food is very expensive. It's not even that great. And all the arcade and the things that they have there, all the fees and all that. So I think there's a massive opportunity. But if you have, go ahead.
Yeah, if you're
No.
good. I was going to say, if you're a group of 10 and you're going to the casino for a birthday or a concert with your friends and you all want to stay, what are your options? Your options, you have to get a big Airbnb, right? Otherwise, you're looking at how many hotel rooms. And even if you share hotel rooms, I mean, do you want the privacy? Are there some couples in there? Get a 5-bedroom Airbnb where you can split it with 5 couples. You get your own bedrooms, you get the privacy, and it's much cheaper than 5 hotel rooms or sharing rooms, 2.5.
I mean, in a hotel
rooms.
room, you can, in 2 queens bed, you can only fit 4, and
that's right, 4 if you really like each other, right?
Right, but people are trying to save money. But I've been looking into Airbnbs, and one of the things that people are talking about is, the crime rate, since there's not a long-term tenant living in there. What systems do you have in place to protect these properties? And what do you tell all the skeptical neighbors that are in charge to ban Airbnb? What do you tell them? What do you think about that?
So you specifically said crime rate, right? But you probably mean like also like parties and parking and all the
crime rate
and
then the parties and all that. Yeah,
sure. So neighbors, it's very common for neighbors not to like an Airbnb being next to you because you don't know who's there, right? You don't know who's coming in next. And so what I would tell the neighbors is, one, you can't be broke and rent Airbnbs. They're not cheap. So you're not dealing with like the lowest common denominator of people, at least financially, right? Now, parties are prohibited on Airbnb. It's like a nationwide, worldwide policy. They're not allowed. It doesn't mean some hosts can't allow them, and it doesn't mean people can't sneak them in. But what is the real problem with Airbnbs? The real problem is the disruption of noise and parking. It's those 2 things, noise and parking. It's not anything else. There's rarely anything else. If you can avoid the parties and avoid loud music, avoid the noise, and if you have good parking, a good parking is it's a deal breaker for me as far as picking up an Airbnb. If I found an amazing one and it has no parking, it's not an Airbnb. Don't mess with it is my advice to people. So if I'm talking to the neighbors, I give them my number. I'm like, my name is David. I own this property. I'm an Airbnb. You can reach out to me anytime if there's anything you want me to know, if you're having any problem. And you keep the place nice, and you keep your landscaper on it, and your cleaner goes in regularly. Your property is going to be clean.
But don't you think people? Sorry to interrupt. But don't you think people are gonna, once you introduce yourself, don't you think they're gonna run to the town and say, "Hey, I don't want this Airbnb"? Or, I mean, I know that they cannot do that. Well, they can. But don't you think they're gonna is that a red flag when you get introduced? Like, hey, this guy's gonna throw parties here now. It's gonna allow parties. Like the misconception that they have.
So introducing yourself, it doesn't really change where you stand, but you are showing your cards really, so to speak, right? So if I don't introduce myself, how long before they figure out that there's an Airbnb next door? The cars change and the people change, and you're like, man, that's weird. That doesn't look like the same guy I saw last week. Then they're going to figure it out sooner or later, right? But by introducing myself up front, one, I'm nice and I'm pleasant and, I'm polite, and I'll give you a contact number, being neighborly in that way. And then, if you do have a problem, they can reach out to me, which is something that people are worried that they cannot do, right? And then, if they go to the town and complain, the town is bound by the rules, right? So Airbnbs are allowed or they're not. If they're not allowed, I shouldn't have opened there. Airbnb is allowed, and the neighbor says, hey, I don't like that there's an Airbnb next to me. The town is going to say, well, what rule have they violated? And if there isn't one, there's no enforcement.
That makes sense. Can you tell us a crazy story about Airbnb and the lessons that you learned, if you have any?
I mean, I've been doing it for 6 years. As a landlord, Airbnb is the same. You get stories. Do you know what Project X parties are? No. So I have one Airbnb that does allow parties and events, and I rented it out to my landscaper, and my landscaper was having a party. I think it was for his birthday. And he invited some people that he knew, but he also invited some people he didn't know that well, including guys that were working on my house. They were my contractors, and my contractor's son was with him, working, one of the contractors, and he invited him. I've never met this kid. And this kid got that information that there was a party to these guys called What's the Move CT. And they call themselves promoters, but they're kids that just go and find places to party and meet up. And so they spread the word essentially to the whole world. Because if you put an invitation out publicly, you have invited the
Right.
whole world, right? There's no limits on that. They invited the whole world to my property for my landscaper's party. And my friends have kids, and some of them are like, hey, I recognize that place. That's David's place. And so I got notified of it, and we had to track them down and see how we could squash it, because you can't post like, hey, there's no party here, because the same audience won't see it. I actually had to find that guy's mother. I was able to track down his mom with the help of my daughter and her friends, and I called his mother on him. He was I don't know if he was 20 or 18 or what, but he took down the party. And then I also hired a security guard and put him at the end of the driveway for the evening in case anyone didn't get
Oh
the
my
memo if the
gosh.
party was canceled. At the Project X party, my
Oh my
landscaper
gosh.
still had the party, and it actually ended up being just fine. Only one car of kids showed up that wasn't invited. They were polite. Honestly, they were so polite they could have stayed. And I actually went to his party because I wanted to make sure it went well, and I was invited also. But that we narrowly avoided
Yeah.
who knows how many hundreds of kids coming to
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
place and trashing it.
My God. Cannot imagine. David, if I would have 50K right now, and I've been mentored by you, I have 50K right now on the bank account. What do you think I should do? I should do a rental arbitrage, or should I do like buy a house and convert it into an Airbnb?
So if I
Yes.
have 50K to work with,
Yes.
and I'm mentoring you, I'm going to give you two options. One, it depends where you live. If you could use a place to live, I started buying a 3-family, living in one unit, renting out the others. And if you want to go extreme, if you're extroverted, you can even rent out rooms in your own apartment and live for free if you need a place to live. And that's a long-term rental. If you don't need that right now and that's not what you're looking for, PK is Airbnb arbitrage. So you should rent a house or a unit and then furnish it and then sublet it with permission from the landlord, so you don't get in any trouble there. But me and my daughter did that together.
Yeah, I was
Actually,
gonna
my
ask
daughter's
you that.
very
Yeah.
first deal. She's 20. Yeah. We rented a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house in Southington, and we went 50-50. She put up half of the furnishings, half of the first month's rent, all of that. Every penny that she had ever earned, we furnished it. She furnished it, I should say, and we're renting it on Airbnb. It's her very first deal, and she is into that. I think the number is 16,000 is all in, and so that doesn't count her labor. Her labor was
Okay.
not included in that number, and her boyfriend helped. I
Yes.
don't think we paid her boyfriend either,
Almost
actually.
right.
So, but if you were to do it, and pay people to do it, instead of 16,000, it could be, maybe you're in the mid 20s or something like that. But if you have 50, you can do one of those. And if you like it, you'll do another one and do
Okay.
two of them.
And what do you think long term? I mean, again, obviously, you're not building that equity or whatnot, but what do you think if we're not thinking about the cash flow, what do you think long term? Do you want to have the added headaches of owning that property, or you don't want that headaches and have an arbitrage? What do you think people should do?
So at 20 years old, for the long term, of course, I wish my daughter owned it, but it doesn't make financial sense to buy in this market. And that's why we rent it. So we're after cash flow only. Equity, honestly, I discounted on everything today, because I think that you ever come across young investors and they're like, hey, I've got this deal, and they're showing you, and the cash flow is very small, but we're building in a very conservative appreciation of 3% or 5%, and they say, because historically
Mhm.
it's been up like 20%. And I look at them and I'm like, hey, man, I'm old enough to know that right now, for the medium term, you should be building negative appreciation into your spreadsheets. But there's not one single investor out there who's going to do that, because how can you know when it's going to go down? It's really not reasonable to build in negative appreciation. But I think it's honest. Anything I buy today, I think is worth less in 5 years. But real estate also comes back. If I'm going to hold it for 30
Right.
years, I don't care. I'm okay with negative appreciation in the short term, as long as I'm making some cash flow. And cash flow is the most important metric at this point in the market. If you're buying for appreciation, it's just not going to work out for you. Not for a
Right.
lot of years.
Unless you force it, obviously, but um,
Well, rehab. If you're adding value, that's different. Got rehabbing, adding value. You can always build
yeah.
appreciation and value that way.
If you had a crystal ball, what do you think is going to happen in Connecticut this year and next year? As far as like the market, yeah, as far as the
As far as
market,
the market,
what do you see happening as far as, things are going to move fast, are going to take longer days on the market? And we're talking about more this year and next year, not like long term, but like this year and next year.
okay. So history is 100% undefeated for market cycling, or it's going high and low, right? Connecticut is always slow. We're always behind other people, right? When the markets start doing poorly in places like Florida and Texas, like eventually it will reshare. But I don't, I don't see it coming here this year. Demand is so strong in Connecticut. Our inventory that's available for sale is low. A lot of demand from New York. New York really keeps us buoyed as far as our real estate market being strong. People from New York, it's worse over there, and so there's lots of people that want to get out. but they don't want to go to Florida or North Carolina, South Carolina. They want to stay within driving distance of New York, and that's Connecticut. And so honestly, I think we'll be pretty steady this year. I don't see much of a decline. And then if I was to go out one more year, I mean, again, my crystal ball's a little broken because honestly, I thought we would have declined by now, and we haven't. It wouldn't shock me if it happened by like the end of next year, but again, it's totally guessing. If I was at a casino and I had $10 to bet about whether the market in Connecticut crashes by the end of next year, I would bet that it probably does, but I'm also prepared to lose my $10.
Interesting. What do you think? Forgot to ask you, when we're talking about your daughter, you partner with her. What is the best advice when people want to do some partnerships? Like, a lot of people don't want to lose their money of their friends and the family, but what will you advise them if they want to partner with like a family?
So the best advice I can give anyone, and I've had a lot of partnerships in my life, is to prepare for failure. But you don't have to expect to fail, but you have to prepare to fail. So in my partnerships in my life, I was notorious for optimism. And like, hey, we're going to get in this business. We're going to flip this house. It's going to be great. We're going to do this and we'll split the proceeds or whatever it is. And that's all great. But when it goes wrong, you have no plan for that. You didn't have a discussion for it. Like, what if you lose 20 grand and you owe 10 each, but the person you partnered with has no money and can't put up their 10? What do? What if someone gets sick? What if someone gets arrested and goes to jail? These things can happen. Prepare for failure. So like I'm working on a deal right now. I actually have to send out the contract later this morning. And in the contract, I said, it's any proceeds over this amount are split 50-50. But I put in right under there, any losses are also split 50-50. That's something that most people would never put in a contract because they don't think they're going to fail. But things happen. Not every deal is a winner. Anyone that tells you that they win like every single deal, either they're lying or they just haven't done enough deals yet. And there are a few people out there that say it.
And that is,
you miss once in a while. Even the best guys they take a little loss on 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 30. And I probably lose
that's
on more than that.
our ratio. We're doing 25 to 30 flips a year, and we have one loser every year. Since 3 years ago, one loser every year. First year I had 2 losers. Last year we lost 107 grand. Yeah, no, it is what it is. But again, like one of the things that I tell people is to not look at a one loss, but as a business. It's like, imagine that you have a restaurant and you did well from January until November, but December, it was fucking bad. So it's like, I cannot see it. Like I was even laughing right in the check because it is a lot of money, but the lessons that I learned, and when I see the bigger picture, it was like, okay, we just move on. It's just a hiccup. So now you are very vocal about legislation in Connecticut, especially against landlords. What do you think? Like, if you want to blame any party, that's fine. Let's keep it raw. But if you were a legislator, what would you do?
Hey, real quick, I want to give you something for free. This is the same flipping calculator that I use to analyze every single deal in less than 60 seconds. No more guessing. No more spreadsheet headaches, just plug in the numbers and know instantly if the deal is worth it. The link is in the show notes. Now, back to the episode.
Different as far as housing in Connecticut, as far as like, landlords and housing, I would say.
If I was a legislator and I could get through any bill that I wanted, is that a fair way to say it? Sure. So you have to let the free market do its thing for the most part with proper regulations, right? And that's what is not happening at all. And so, for example, one party decides that, and for some reason, nobody can figure it out, rent keeps going up. And all of those things have the exact opposite effect of what the intention is. And I'll give you a great example, right? The political party doesn't want landlords to be able to charge more than 1 month's security, right? So that it's more affordable for tenants that don't have a lot of money to be able to get an apartment. It sounds well-intentioned, right? And so what's the result? Well, as a landlord, I know that an eviction costs many thousands of dollars.
Way more than a month of rent.
If I can only charge 1 month security, right, I am not going to take a chance on anyone that was a little marginal. I'm going to pass on them. I'm going to wait for the next tenant. So instead of making it easier for that tenant to move into an apartment because it's 1 month security instead of 2, it's harder for that tenant to move into an apartment because landlords say no because their screening has some bruises on it. It is the exact opposite effect of the intention. It's full. Our state is full of that. All of the Democrat states are full of those kind of laws. If I was to try to pass a bill, I think that one of the best bills that could be passed, one of the best efforts at policies, I guess I'll call it, I don't know if it's a bill, is People that have an eviction on their record, Governor Lamont has made evictions so serious that landlords aren't giving second chances. Someone with an eviction comes along and they're like, hey, I got evicted in 2021. It was 5 years ago. I'm making more money now. And, I didn't pay my rent because Governor Lamont said that I didn't have to. He said, just stay safe. But I'm doing better now. And I didn't know Governor Lamont was wrong at the time. Landlords still aren't taking those guys. So if I could pass any bill, I want people that have been evicted to be able to get a second chance. Being evicted doesn't mean you should be homeless forever. That's kind of terrible. And I don't even know where these people go. And so the way to make evictions less serious to a landlord in their screenings is to make them go faster and cost less. I would make the paperwork process less. I would make the time it takes to get through the court system less. I would make the guidance easier. If you are complaining about condition, the tenant has to escrow the rent with the court. And when the case is decided, the money is either released to the landlord or it's given back to the tenant if the tenant is found to be correct. Right now the tenant can't just stall for time and then leave and not pay anything, right? If they have to escrow with the court. That's for one where they're complaining about condition or saying the landlord did something wrong where it wasn't money. When it's non-payment of rent, it should be a really easy case. There should not be these long periods of time. It takes you 45 days just to get into court. And then the tenant will say, I have 2 children. I need 6 months to get out. Like that should not be the case. It's not that these people shouldn't get help, but the burden shouldn't be put onto a single landlord to pay for them to live, no matter what their case. They could be think of the most saddest story ever, a disabled veteran single mother who, was assaulted and, is sick in the winter. Can I think of anything more
that's
sad than that, right? So my question is, how long should her landlord have to pay for her to live to be, for justice in Connecticut?
Right.
And the answer should be 0 months. But she should have help.
Right.
But it should come from social programs or it should be spread out among the community. I don't think she should be homeless. I think she should be helped. But those are the kinds of endeavors that I would put forward if I was in charge of things. And I am in charge of nothing.
No, I hear you. And I think that one of the things is the other day I was driving going to your point, through West Haven. I live in Orange, and I see so many vacant buildings that either the government owns or like the state, or landlords that just like, hey, I'm not making any money. This is just a loss. Let me just leave it there. But like with the right tax incentives, and obviously, permitting and zoning being flexible, these buildings can definitely fit a lot of homeless people. And nobody's doing anything about it. The other way around is like, every town now has their assessment, and because everything has gone up, all the taxes are going up. And I see towns, I'm seeing it right now, Hamden, Connecticut. I'm seeing a lot of houses for sale there, more than I will bet than anything I've seen. And it's because a 1,200 square foot house is paying $8-9 grand, and not the best neighborhood. So it's like ways to, I will say, you cannot prevent being homeless. Like that lady that you were saying, they can have a home if we get ready to, if the state or the town, try to help the landlords instead of just fighting with them. Because at the end of the day, we're just trying to provide housing and make a little money. Like, people don't realize that landlords make, with the right underwriting, if they do the things right, $200 to $300, $400, $500 per unit. It's not like, it's like if you're gonna make housing being so tough, then tell restaurants to stop serving food. Like, hey, everybody can come for free to eat. Then tell everyone, like, right? Why only housing? So yeah,
housing is the only thing that's legal to steal.
Say?
Did you know that? Housing is the only thing that's legal to steal. If you go into a house, an apartment, and you don't pay your rent, that's stealing. And it's the only kind of stealing that is legal. There's no criminal penalty for stealing housing. You steal food, you steal clothing, it's a crime. It's theft. Steal housing, it is not a crime. Civil matter. Did you know that?
I never seen it like that.
If you take a service, if I hire you to mow my lawn and I want your service and I don't pay you, that's theft, right?
Yeah.
Theft or fraud. When you come into my apartment, I'm providing you a service.
You cannot put a lien on the tenant.
Let me show another way to reduce homelessness. Also, another bill that I would pass if I was in charge of anything. It is absolutely a non-starter, though. Nobody wants this, and it's to allow boarding houses and rooming houses. There's a few licenses out there, but they are very hard to find. It's a very hard license to get. Zoning doesn't want them. Neighbors don't want them. But there are so many people that would rent a room because it's the most affordable way to live. And if you would allow more of those, it would reduce the number of housing units that are needed to house all the people. People would rent rooms instead of needing their own single apartments. Yeah. But it's very unpopular. But I wish I wish people could do it if they chose
There's another
to.
way. Just gave me an idea. What if zoning and building gets more flexible of letting you basements or attics? I mean, think about this. I have at least 18 multifamilies that I can do that. I'm talking about 18 to double to 36 units that I can have families rented maybe at a lower cost if I have a tax credit or nothing, right? But instead, they're making it so difficult because of, and they are making the rules, especially zoning, they are so ridiculous. For example, in West Haven, you need 2 parking for 1 bedroom. I'm like, are you serious? Like, so you need 2 parking spots in a city where like houses are next to each other, where there's plenty of street parking. So I cannot finish my attic because of that. And then again, every time that I put an apartment for rent, it's like hundreds of applications and stuff because again, it is a problem. And yeah.
So that is zoning's way of saying that we don't want any more density in our town, right? That's West Haven's way of saying we don't want more density, but with the parking requirements. But at the same time, then they're like, oh, housing crisis. We want more density. Like we just want it on we want it somewhere else. We want more housing, but not in our backyard is what that zoning thing says. And the other killer is like attics and basements. It makes so much sense to house people there, but it's a non-starter because of fire code more than zoning. The fire marshal will say like, hey, the egress isn't proper. The egress isn't, it isn't good enough in an emergency. And then one day there will be a tragedy and someone will pass away because they were in an attic in a fire. They would revert the rules back. That's probably why they have the rules in the first place. So even though overall for society, it would be a good thing to have that additional housing stock, it's a non-starter because the fire marshal will be like, oh my God, that guy, Johnny, he passed away in a fire. You can't do this. And then everyone has to change their rules.
I agree with that. But what if you make it as legal as like, sometimes you have attics, and this is my case. I have a few multi-units where I have all the legalities as far as building. I have 2 egress, I have 7-foot ceiling, I have windows where the person can jump in and out. But they still not allow it because of parking. And I understand, like, they don't want to have 100 parkings in the street. But at the same time, there is space. It's not like right now it's occupied. And I'm not saying
how many bedrooms do you got?
How many what?
How many bedrooms do you have in that house?
On the first unit, I have 3. On the second unit, I have 2. And in the attic, I can have 1 or 2.
Okay, so it's either going to be a 6 or a 7 bedroom. How many parking spaces? So
right now, I have 2 big garages. Behind the garages, you can fit 2 cars perfectly. I can create parking in the in the lawn area that nobody uses it. So I could create parking there. It's just like
how many in the lawn?
At least 4.
How many in the lawn? 4. So you can have 4 in the lawn, 2 this side of the garage, and 2 in the garage. Is the garage reasonable to park inside?
I'm using it as a storage right now for my tools and stuff, but yeah.
So you can have 8 parking spaces for 6 or 7 bedrooms. Oh, Andres, I've got to tell you, if I was in charge of stuff, I would let you do it.
Yeah, and it's just like, if I wouldn't have it, that's fine. And I'm not saying maybe those don't start with like, oh, you can rent the basement, or you can rent you can finish your basement and attic. Maybe you start with the attic, maybe start with the basement. Well, at least try to find a solution and try to ease. The same thing with the use. Some towns are so, you can do it, no problem. But some towns, man, like you have an acre of land and it's no, you can't. And I'm like, why? And they found a way, always to find a way. But yeah, what is the one piece of advice that you will give investors coming to this market, knowing how tough it is in Connecticut, especially like Connecticut investors? What is the one piece of advice if people want to get more deals, and specifically
more deals? Are we talking about new experienced guys or new guys?
Let's go new guys and experienced guys.
New guys. The new guys, my advice is to go to the real estate meetups, go to the CT Rios, go to the Bad Sons Brewery tomorrow night with Brian, and go to the meetups, because you're not going to find deals on the MLS. They're just not out there. You have to find deals through relationships. Some of those guys will come across a deal that they can't take down themselves. Some of them are wholesalers in the first place. Some of them are some of them new, and they were like, hey man, would you joint venture with me? I don't know how to do the contractor part, or I don't have the money, or I don't have the experience to get the money from the hard money lender. I have 2 guys that I partnered with because the hard money lender wouldn't loan to them because of their experience level. That was it. They were capable. They did just fine. One of them was Oz. He got investor of the year from CT RIA a couple years. What was his very first deal, because he couldn't. Oz Parisian. Yeah, he's doing great now, but his very first deal, he couldn't get the hard money loan because he didn't have the experience level, and he had to partner with me just to get past that one hurdle. he had the money. I think I put up a little money, but he could have done it on his own, but he couldn't get
Yeah.
past the hard money
Yeah.
lender underwriting. So go to the meetups and meet people, create a network, become friends, have some drinks together, get to know guys. You never know where your next piece of business is coming from. That's my advice for the new guys, because don't go out looking at houses with your realtor
Why not?
for days and days on end. That's not a good use of your gas and your time. Your your odds of success are very low that way. And then the experienced guys know you're looking for distressed. You're looking for people that are in trouble. You're looking for value add. You're looking to work with relationships with realtors. When you're working with the investment realtors, they'll know when they have something that's worth buying, and when it's not worth buying, they put it up on the MLS listings and stuff, and it goes to the open market. But you can get pocket deals from people if you have good relationships, and the experienced guys know that. And just keep your nose clean. That's another thing for the experienced investors. If it's a really small community in the Connecticut real estate world, and I think we all know the names of the guys that are like, this guy didn't pay, this guy's behind, this guy's in trouble, this guy didn't do what he said he was going to do, and you can't gain that reputation and be that guy. You have to do what you say you're going to do. People they avoid doing business with you if your reputation falters. So keep your nose clean.
That's good. What do you think about flipping in 2026?
I think there's always, I'm not doing nearly as many because they're harder to find, but honestly, I'm not looking as hard as I used to, because I used to be able to look at a few and pick one and do that project, right? And today you have to look at 10 to find one that makes sense. So I'm not trying that hard, but flipping will always exist. Flipping will always be there. But today you have to be more patient. And, maybe you don't make quite as much, but there are flips out there.
Yeah, definely. My last question is, where can people reach out to you? Where can people find the great David?
So, I'm a Facebook addict. I freely admit it. Facebook is probably the best way. I do have an Instagram, but I don't use it that often. On Facebook, the young guys are always like, "Oh, Facebook is for old people," my daughter included. And I'm like, well, let me explain why you need Facebook then. Facebook is for old people. I won't deny it, but old people have all the money, and Facebook is where old people live. And that's how you find them. That's how you find where they live. You got to have a Facebook. So, you can send me a message on Facebook. That's
awesome.
The best way
to
reach
thank you so much for your time. If anybody has a question, feel free to reach out to David. He's, super cool dude, super transparent. Yeah. I thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey, thank you for having me on your show, Andres. Yes. Looking forward to having a drink soon.